Skinny here. I tell you what, if you're sitting here and you're finding yourself listening in for the first time, let me tell you a little bit about what we do here at If Not For Music. We like to take our favorite artists from the 70s and 80s and just kind of sit down and pick their brain and find out what was behind some of their biggest songs or what they're doing now, and that's what we're going to do today. Today we're going to be interviewing Johnny Townsend from the Sanford Townsend Band, the Toler Townsend Band, and various other projects he's had over the years. You know, we could sit around and we could watch the news all day and be depressed and think about everything that's going on in the world, or we could just have some fun, and we choose to do the latter, if not for music. So stick around. Johnny Townsend coming your way next.
I fell asleep last night under a no-vital moon. Woke up this morning to a cold, empty room. I poured my coffee and I walked outside. Raised my hands and shook my fist at the sky. When I realized the reality gave me a roll. If things are the same, then explain why your kiss is so cold. And that mist in your eyes feels like rain on the vine. In my soul.
Hello?
Hey, Johnny. It's Kenny. How you doing, brother?
Kenny, how you doing? I just called and left a message on your number there.
Yeah, I got this.
The one that you.
I got this phone set up where if I don't recognize the number, it goes straight to not letting me know. So it just
right.
To me spam callers.
You.
To me spam callers.
Man. You hear me? Okay? Can you hear me? Okay?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Sure.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Just my wife and I just sitting around. Staving off the boredom, thinking of things to do and being creative and stuff. And we're enjoying ourselves and enjoying this time together.
It's times like this that realize you're with the right partner, because if you had the wrong one, man, it'd be a rough time.
It really would.
So you still painting?
Pardon?
Are you still painting?
Painting?
Yeah, didn't you do some painting or something? Wasn't you into some artwork?
Yeah, no, I did. I did a bunch of album covers and things, some like Photoshop type stuff for a bunch of artists, friends of mine back in Nashville and stuff, and over the years, and I've done quite a few of them, and it's really fun, but it's been kind of slow lately, that part of it, and. But and on the musical end of things, Sanford and I have been getting together once a week for the last couple of years, just seeing what we can come up with, playing and keeping our chops up, and with some kind of thing ultimately in mind. But it seems like it's all been put on hold right now with all of this business with the virus going on.
Yeah, there's not a lot going on right now with the virus,
Yeah, no.
Everything's kind of ground to a halt. That was another thing that I was looking at too. They were talking about concerts and that kind of thing. Man, that is going to affect your industry in a big way if they start shutting down
huge.
concerts.
one of my best friends is one of the best live sound mixers in the business, and he just got his year's income canceled. You know, he had tours. I mean, this guy, my friend Dave Morgan, who's worked with the Doobie Brothers, Whitney Houston. He was out with Seal, and he did this last Fleetwood Mac tour, world tour that they did. And he's one of the best, but he's not working right now. And I just really feel sorry for people that have big house payments and stuff, you know, that are out of work right now, because it's crazy. We don't know what's going to happen, you know.
Yeah, it's affected us all. I was inside sales for a utility supply company, you know, pipe supply and that kind of stuff, and they cut a bunch of us loose. I mean, it's affecting everybody. It's not just musicians. It's not just you know, it's everybody. Everybody's getting affected by it. My wife, she's
absolutely, yeah.
She's an office manager for a doctor, and you know, you think,
yeah. I mean, if you just think about one sporting event, one huge big sporting event that gets canceled, it's all the vendors, everybody, the drink sale, you know, all that stuff, and the people that print up programs and print tickets and all of that stuff. That's all gone. There's thousands and thousands of people just off of one event, you know, that don't work. You know, that's crazy.
Well, I'm wondering how these ticket promoters, these people that sell these tickets like StubHub and Ticketmaster and all these are going to do whenever, you know, all these concerts get canceled that people have paid for. You know, and I'm one of those people. I paid for 3 concerts in advance this year, and you know, it's kind of up in there. We don't even know what's going to happen. We don't even know if there's going to be concerts and if people are going to feel safe to go to concerts anymore for at least for a while.
Oh yeah, I know. One of the things that Ed and I, Sanford and I, were looking at, we were trying to put together a little thing, and not play clubs. We wanted to do like these little small 99-seat theaters, maybe 100, 200 people. Because we like playing for small audiences, and what we're doing is as a duo act anyway. It's just 2 guys on keyboards. But all that's gone because nobody, who's going to go and sit in an auditorium with in some stuffy little auditorium where there's no, you know, where the air is not circulating that well, and then it's risky. You know, people aren't going to do it, I don't think.
Yeah, that and just getting on an airplane and having to fly somewhere, being stuck in this, you know, enclosed environment for, you know, 2 or 3 hours at a time or longer.
Well, my wife and I, right around the end of January, we made a trip to Hawaii and stuff, and we were there for a week, and well, we got out just in time, because if it had been a week later, they might not have let us leave. You know, it was pretty weird.
So tell us a little bit about, you know, I know me and you've talked before in the past, but I've got kind of a new listening audience. So, you know, I want to kind of talk about your early days with, you know, Johnny Townsend Band and some of the music you guys put together and how you come up with some of the songs, and talk about, you know, your days with the Toler Townsend Band, that kind of thing. I just want to pick your brain and then see where you are today, man.
Well, you know, it's all a very bit an interesting ride for many years now. And I one of the creative part in the songs, which you mentioned, has always been one of my favorite parts, because that's the part that I really get off on. I love jumping in. I've always loved puzzles and anagrams and things like that, and putting together a song is very similar to that. You know, you got a lot of unknowns and a few clues, and you just take some things and piece them together, and hopefully, if your craftsmanship is worthy, then you'll come up with something good. But you know, the early days, in fact, I just got, there's a friend of mine has a Facebook page and it's about my hometown and the music that's going on there. And I just posted a bunch of stuff. I put up about a dozen threads myself of just people that had influenced me, and my old friend Eddie Hinton, who was in Muscle Shoals, I grew up with and went to school with, and Eddie was one of the first people that inspired me to. Eddie wrote a bunch of hits like "Cover Me" for Percy Sledge, and he wrote some stuff like for Dusty Springfield that was a big hit, and he's one of the guys that inspired me to get into doing what I was doing, you know, I mean, in high school and stuff. And I just remember I was a real cathartic experience where, like, I was hashing through all these old photographs the other day and came up with a bunch of stuff. And so, yeah, I just refreshed my memory. So I do have a lot to talk about now in that area, and I've just been reminded of it in the last few days. But but it's all been really fun. I mean, just in school, how I got started in singing and stuff was I was a senior in high school in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And Tuscaloosa is about 60 miles from the Mississippi state line and we used to travel over to Columbus, Mississippi, which was just on the other side of the state line because if you were old enough to reach over the counter, they'd sell you beer, when you were 17, 18. And we used to go over there and on the way back home one night, my friend Jimmy, who he'd been taking some guitar lessons, and we started singing. I started singing to the radio on the way back from Columbus that night. We'd do about 3 sheets in the wind. And he said, "Wow, you got a pretty good voice." He says, "Come over to my house one afternoon," and we did, and we worked up several Jimmy Reed songs, and I loved it so much that it was game over. I said, "Yeah, this is something I want to do because this is fun." And it was just me and him in his living room playing guitar and singing.
So when did you pick up the piano?
Pardon?
When did you pick up the piano?
Well, I took piano lessons in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, and at a time in my life when I wanted to be Mickey Mantle when I grew up. It was one of those things where my family, my mother had a big backyard, and every afternoon after school, all the kids were playing, all the neighborhood kids were playing baseball in the backyard while I was inside taking piano lessons. So, needless to say, I quit after a while, and my mother said, "You'll be sorry." And she was exactly right, because back a couple of years later, I said, "Wow, this is really fun," and I really wanted to write songs, and because I thought I had a little knack for it, making up stuff. My first songs that I started writing were actually making up dirty words to songs that were already actually existing, but it kind of got me in the framework for it. But anyway, so I started when I was playing with this band. My band in college was the Rubber Band. We had a little hit called "Let Love Come Between Us" back in that era, and it was '67, I think it was, and it got us a bunch of gigs because it was a regional hit, and it was later recorded by James and Bobby Purify, and they had a hit with it. Mavis Staples recorded the song. Pointer Sisters recorded the same that song, but that got us started. We went, "Wow, you can actually make money doing this." So anyway, when I was playing with the Rubber Band, every evening I would take our keyboard player Joe would all leave his stuff in our trailer, and which was always parked in my driveway. So I'd haul the old Wurlitzer piano out of the back of the trailer and set it up in my living room and put the headphones on and start picking out stuff again. And in no time at all, I sort of had the scope of it, but it took a little while for me to build up my fingers and everything and what little chops that I have. But it was really fun. It was a learning experience for me, and it was fun it was actually cool that I was getting paid for learning on the job, basically.
What a cool job to have to learn on the job. That's pretty neat.
Yeah. So
tell me a little bit about how you come up with the words for "Smoke from a Distant Fire."
Well, that's an interesting story because when Ed and I first started writing songs together, Ed Sanford and I, Ed was living in a duplex with another friend of his. They were Ed's from Montgomery, Alabama, and he had come out here with another friend, Stephen, who was also the co-writer on Smoke. Well, it was a funny little story. A side story was like Stephen is a classical guitar player, and he's really good at it. But at a point in time when he was really studying hard, he would stay up all night sitting in front of his music stand playing his acoustic guitar, and Ed would be in the next bedroom, trying to sleep with a pillow over his head. And I came over one morning. Ed and I had an appointment to go play some songs for a publisher in town here, and so Ed comes out of his bedroom and goes, "Man, I wish you just quit playing all that that classical stuff and write something that's going to make you some money." And Stephen said, "Well, anybody can write that stuff." And he started playing this riff that was really cool. He just, it was like, and we went, wait, play that. So I went straight to the piano and I said, "Show me that. What key are you in?" So we worked it out. We sat there and worked out the music for it. And Stephen, and we started writing the song right there in the living room. I mean, it actually started out as a joke when Stephen says anybody can write that stuff, you know, and we did right there in that moment. We wrote ourselves a hit song, but the title of the song came. I had just read a couple of days before. I picked up a piece of paper that Ed had written this poem about this girl that he just broke up with in college, and it was like a really heart-rending letter, and he had the phrase in there like smoke from a distant fire. You know, I knew something was going on, like I could see the smoke from a distant fire, you know. And it was just a line. It was a line out of his poem. I took that line and I put it as the punchline for this song. And like in no time at all, like in a matter of an hour or two, we had the song sussed out, and we were all really pleased with ourselves at the time, you know. And I never knew that it was going to be as big and as successful as it was, but you never do, you know.
So looking back, you know, you guys spent an hour writing this song, and this song has been around. What year was the song written?
It was written in '76 and released in summer, it was a big hit summer in 1977. So it's been 42 years. 42
years, and that song is still going strong. I mean, it's still heard on radio today. Isn't that crazy to look back at something?
Oh yeah,
it
really is. You know, and it's really, I don't know, it's really kind of a validation for something, you know, because it's something, you know, things that stay around long enough. I mean, I remember Don Henley talking about writing songs for the Eagles, and he said we decided early on in the Eagles that if we wanted to write songs that were going to be around for 20 years or more, we had to spend extra time on the lyrics and stuff. And he was right about that. You know, I mean, the stuff that's really good, especially their stuff. I mean, the Eagles, Christ. I mean, their stuff is so well crafted and so beautifully done that it was destined to be around for that long. But the good stuff has a way of sticking around, and I'm sure proud of it. I really am.
I think the reason it sticks around is because no matter what year it was recorded, you can look back and you can relate to it in some form or fashion. I think that has a lot to do with it, no matter how long ago it's written.
I agree with that. I agree with that, because if it has something that, you know, that relates to, and I've had people all over the world. I get emails through my website. I get emails from everywhere from South Africa to, you know, Norway, freaking Australia, New Zealand, people all over the world. People from China call me, tell me like how much they love that song or how much it meant to them in a time in their life, you know, and which is really cool, you know, when you're able to affect other people in your life like that in a positive way, it's really a validation of your life.
You know, I tell you, for me, when I finally realized my consciousness of music was that first time that I'd had my heart broke, and I'm listening, I'm riding in a car with my mom and dad, my sisters, brothers, and I hear a song that comes over the radio, and all of a sudden it hit me. It's like, I know exactly what they're talking about. I feel that, and to me that is the power of music. I mean, at that point, at that very moment, I realized how powerful music was, and I realized that it can cut straight to the heart. That's why I think good music never dies, is because it's relatable. We all have situations that we've gone through where, you know, I can relate to maybe somebody cheating on me, or, you know, I mean, it's just there's something that's, like you said, it's about a song. It's what keeps it relevant, is you can relate to it.
Can be a guide for you to, you know, like, yeah, that's what I need to do, you know, or don't let the screen door hit you. You need to end this relationship, kind of a thing, you know, because it's poison, or you know, or it can be an inspiration. It can be a lot of different things. And you know, music means a lot of different things. And I know I've like you. I've had very similar with music that myself. Where I just be in the car over and have a good cry and put in and say, man, that was so good, and then I relate to that so much.
Isn't it cool that you can listen to a song and it take you back to a certain time? I bet you can hear that song and you can think back to, you know, back when you were sitting around writing that song. I mean, not all of us have that memory, but, you know, takes us
absolutely.
back. It takes us back to a certain place, a certain time. That's why I think music is such an important thing.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's like there's I don't know if you remember Marcel Proust, the French philosopher. He had a thing called he wrote this thing called Remembrance of Things Past, where he was sitting there and he wrote this whole thing once because he was sitting and he took a bite of these little certain tea cakes that his mother used to make. And he said, just in that moment, that taste in my mouth, just that 1 second, he said it burst a whole flood of memories from my childhood and my mother and all this other stuff. And he wrote this beautiful thing, this piece about. Well, that's the same thing. I mean, it's really like there's one little indicator can like there's something that you remember. It's a taste or a sound or a smell or something that brings you back to. It's kind of remarkable how the human mind works.
So I'm thinking back to my high school graduation, and we had 2 class songs for our graduation, and this is probably the strangest mix you'll ever hear. But one of them was "Hot for the Teacher" by Van Halen, and the other was "Looks Like We Made It" by Barry Manilow. Well, I can hear either. I can hear either one of those songs, and it takes me back to 1984, sitting there in that in that church, getting ready to walk down the aisle to get my diploma. I mean,
absolutely,
it's craziness, man. Yeah, that's the power of music in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's true. Very much.
So, what was it like working with Dan Toler?
Oh, Danny, I miss that guy so much. I mean, he's Danny and I were working on our second album when he came. We were in the songs for it when he came down with ALS, and it was just such a heartbreaking scene. But I tell you, the guy he's probably the most musical person I've ever worked with. I mean, he just an absolute natural. I mean, he had been playing since he was like 8 years old, and his dad used to bring him home Johnny Smith records and all these great jazz artists. So he really good stuff, early on as a kid, but so melodic. I mean, you just give him anything. I mean, you didn't have to tell him what the chords were. He could come in a song. And I would sit, when we played with Dan, we had this band called the Renegades with George McCorkle from the Marshall Tucker Band and Jack Hall from Wet Willie and a few other of our friends and from Southern Rockers. And we were doing like all that kind of stuff, and I remember all the stuff, the Southern rock stuff, and all the songs that we've been involved with. Danny played with the Allman Brothers and Dickie Betts and all these people, and but I was sitting back when Danny was soloing and I was singing. I'd step back off the stage out of the lights while Danny would be on front of the stage, and I just get goosebumps because that guy was so good and playing all those great songs, and he just had a way about him that was I don't know, it was fun. Plus he was such a sensational guy. I mean, really always happy, always positive, and always supremely confident in his talent, and I admired that too.
Well, Johnny, I know you don't fall into this category, but I know there's a long list of people that do. But there's a lot of artists that have egos, and it's hard for them to work with somebody especially with a lot of talent. But so when you first met Dan Toler, Danny, and you guys started working together, was there any ego in you that said, "Man, I'm good," or do you just, when you walk into a situation like that, you just walk in and you just you're just in awe. You're just like, man, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy to even perform with this dude.
Well, it's like, I remember there's this Hindu phrase that like when that goes like something like when you stand before the Brahma. When you stand before God, you look at him you should look at him as an equal. You shouldn't look at him as and I've always it's kind of hard for me to get used to. So, yeah, that's true, because we are all part of the same thing, But with Danny, it was like first time I saw Danny play was Sanford Townsend Band was opening for Dickie Betts and the Great Southern at Paramus, New Jersey. I think it was the Capitol Theater, and I went out. I always went out and saw whoever was who were opening, and I kept looking over. Standing together next to the console, the mixing console, and said, "Who is this guitar player?" So after the show, I went backstage and said, "Man, I just wanted to meet you because you really blew me away, you know. And we met then, and he was such a friendly guy and so you know, so wide open, you know, and but he kept going on, man, I love that song of yours. He says, you know, he watched your set and, you sang your ass off, bro, you know. And so it was a mutual respect right off the bat. And when we wound up working together, I guess, again, back in the early 90s, I think it was 92, Greg had his solo band, Greg Allman and Friends, and it was Danny and his brother and Bruce Wable and all the guys that had played in Greg's solo band and the guys that had played on I'm No Angel, and which was pretty much Danny's arrangement of that song, you know, which probably made it a hit. But anyway, it just we got when I started playing with Danny and we were on the road for about a year, you know, off and on. And then the Allman Brothers got back together, so we were all of a sudden cut loose, and we didn't have a gig. So Danny looked at me and says, "Okay, when this is over with, you're coming to Florida with me, and we're gonna start something, you know." And so I mean, it was him suggesting that to me. You're coming to, you know, he told me. He didn't ask me. He said, "You're coming to Florida with me, and we're gonna start something." So I was just really flattered because I love the guy and the opportunity to play with him doing our own stuff was just something I couldn't pass up.
Well, speaking of, you know, being on the road and traveling, how supportive does a wife have to be for her husband to be a musician? I mean, I'm sure it's pretty.
Oh yeah, it really is. If a marriage isn't, if both sides of the marriage aren't good with what's, you know, with the occupant, with what's going on, like being gone a bit, you know, and stuff, then it's not working. And it really helps if you're married with someone that understands and it's actually in the same industry. I mean, my wife Jennifer is an actress. We've been married for 30 years now, and we just I mean, it works beautifully because she understands what I have to do, and I understand what she has to do. You know, if she's in a scene on the stage in a play or something where she is romantically involved with some guy, I understand that. It's because it's part of the play. It's part of the script, you know, and she understands if I have to be gone or something, you know, it's not. You know, it's not something that you should have to worry about. You know, if both parties are understanding and good with, you know, what it is, there shouldn't be a problem. There are other people and there are other situations that I see all the time where people are inhibited and their careers are stalled because they're in a wrong relationship.
So let's talk about you and Ed Sanford working together. You mentioned that at the beginning. You guys were starting to work on stuff before all this pandemic stuff went down. Do you see your guys maybe doing a live stream or something, like a little live stream song or something, just kind of get out there?
No, but we're working towards that. We Ed and I, a couple of years ago, we had an opportunity. There's a DJ you probably know, a guy named Mark Thompson, who was Mark of the Mark and Brian show. You remember that?
Yeah.
They were the most popular morning show here in L.A. And when they split up, or when they basically retired from KLOS, Mark went back to North Carolina, which was, I guess, where his family, some of his family is. But Mark and Brian were both big fans of the Sanford Townsend band. So anyway, Mark actually we were on the Mark and Brian show a couple of mornings, you know, playing some of our stuff just live and acoustic, many years ago. But Mark had this show. He came back to L.A. and was working for a station here, and within no time at all, he once again was the most popular morning DJ in Los Angeles. Drive time and all that, and he had, after the first year of him being back in L.A., he had this reunion, had this big Mark and Brian 1 year celebration show, and he invited us. He put together this incredible band with like Sting's guitar player, Keith Emerson's band, a guy named Greg Bissonette who worked with Van Halen, and all these guys. They had a couple of guys from Van Halen, Richard Page from Mr. Mister, but a lot of artists, local art that are local to L.A. were on the show. at the Saban Theater and with a packed audience. I mean, they sold tickets and everything. And so when he wanted Ed and I to perform, Ed and I hadn't performed together and done anything together really in like 15 years. And so we got together and worked up a few songs and worked up Smoke Fire, and then went and rehearsed it with this killer band that they put together with all these luminaries, these star players. We walked on stage and played Smoke from a Distant Fire and killed it, and the audience loved it. And we had so much fun that night that Ed and I looked at each other. Well, maybe we should try doing something again. You know, I miss not having that kind of fun. You know, So since then, in the last couple of years, we've been getting together at least once a week, and over a period just to play. And then over a period of months, we said, well, man, this is starting to really sound good. It's just the two of us, doing a duo. And I said, this is really starting to sound good. Maybe we should think about doing something. So we put together the idea of playing small theaters, and we didn't want to get into clubs and things like that, because what we're doing is more like two electronic keyboard players, but it's more of an acoustic type of format.
Well, I've got a
really. But anyway, that's what we're doing. And then this pandemic thing kind of comes along and stalls that out. But we're still. I mean, we were on FaceTime yesterday talking about putting together some videos and doing the stuff and getting our own YouTube channel and doing stuff just to keep in it.
Well, that's cool, man. If that happens, you need to send me a link so I can promote it. And that's a pretty
awesome.
Oh,
absolutely.
Deal.
Well, it'll probably be within the next. Whenever we can start getting back together again without masks on, because it's hard to sing with a mask on,
Yeah, yeah, I would say so, unless you're Kiss. Well, brother, I got one question to ask you before I let you go. It's a question I ask every artist that comes on this show. And the reason my show is called If Not For Music is one of the things I like to ask the artist is, if it wasn't for music, what do you think you would be doing? What would your life's path have been?
Well, when I went to college, I had this noble idea about that I wanted to be a doctor. And so I enrolled in pre-med at the University of Alabama, and I spent my first year in taking all the biology and the chemistry classes and the etymology and all this other stuff that you need as your prerequisites for being a doctor. But what happened was we were playing on the band with the band every weekend, and sometimes we'd be gone. We'd leave Friday afternoon and wouldn't come back till like maybe Monday morning. I mean, it's like we'd be playing someplace in like Biloxi. We'd finish the gig at midnight and drive all the way back to Tuscaloosa from Biloxi. And get home about daylight, have some breakfast, nap, and then go to class. Well, at that time in pre-med, I was taking 18 units of classes every week. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I had 2 5-hour labs. I had a 5-hour lab each day in chemistry. And my grades started falling, but as my musical career started taking off, I started making my freshman year in college, I made more money than my dad working the weekend. And I didn't sit really, my dad's kind of old school, didn't sit really well with him. He couldn't figure out what it was I was actually doing for that money. But anyway, it was just, I probably would have done something like that, but I think more likely my artistic side of me would have taken over, and I'd have wound up doing like being in art school or something like that, or I don't know, maybe doing graphic design or something. That would have been my second choice, I would think.
Oh, what you're saying is, Johnny, that you're pretty much glad you became a musician, because I don't know if you're the type of guy I'd have to come to and say, hey man, I got a lump under my arm, can you check it out? I don't see that.
I'm gonna sing to you while I cut on you.
Hey brother, I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for being gracious and getting on board with me today, man.
Kenny, it's always a pleasure, man. You always ask great questions, and like you're such a pro, and it's just always very enjoyable.
Well, thank you, brother. Keep in touch and let me know what happens with you and Ed, man. Keep me up to date. I'd like to, like I said, see some new stuff from you guys. That's pretty awesome.
I will, absolutely. I'll definitely do that.
Take care, brother. Enjoy. Y'all stay healthy and stay safe.
You stay safe and well too, my friend. Thanks.
All right, brother. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for being a part of our podcast today of If Not For Music. What a great interview with Johnny Townsend. Tell you what, we got some more great interviews in the books coming on. We got John Portcoli coming up the next day or so. So I tell you what, stay tuned and stay informed. We're going to have some great podcasts for you. It's Big Skinny with you, If Not For Music. Take care. Stay healthy. We'll see you.